Hey, I'm Danielle, a techie serial entrepreneur.
I'm Cicely, a health tech nurse.
I'm Priscilla, and I'm an award-winning creative.
Welcome to the More Than Graphics podcast, a virtual safe space for women and minorities in the tech and creative industry. Together, we're that tribe. Hello, everyone. Welcome, everybody. It is another episode of the More Than Graphics podcast. I'm Danielle.
I'm Cicely.
I love it. Okay. And spontaneity. I love it. I absolutely am excited for this particular episode of More Than Graphics because it really is going to be something that's transparent and open to many of you. We're talking about the topic of tarnish, and we have a great guest for this. And I think when I think of tarnish, I think of obviously something going to be a little bit old, aged, or worn, but I also think of tarnish like shining it down to like get to the shine, like grinding it out until I get to what I want it to resemble or reflect. So I think it has like a really kind of double entendre kind of feel. I personally just really want to, tell people up front, like the topics that we're going to talk about today are sensitive. They're a little raw, but I think all of it is part of the process. And we talk about women in tech and women in creatives, and this is such an area that we need to talk about more and more in this space. So I'm excited to bring on our guest. Cicely, anything new in your world, or what do you think of when you think of tarnish?
So yes, I definitely think of the same things as you, just kind of something that's maybe older, unpolished, that just needs some refining or needs to be kind of jazzed back up or like have life breathed back into it. So definitely when I think of tarnish, I don't think of something that's completely ruined though. I think of something that's still salvageable, something that you're still able to work with, and something that has the capacity to get better or to improve somehow.
Oh, I love that. That's wonderful. Okay. I'm excited to bring on our guests. Would you like to introduce them, Cicely?
Absolutely. So Didi Hairston, the creator of the DWD Experience, is a talented writer, public speaker, podcaster, and devoted mother. She also serves as the host of the Breaking the Mask podcast. Welcome to Didi.
Hi, ladies. Thank you for having me. It's nice to be here.
We are excited to have you here. This space is all about being open and transparent and honest and raw. And I feel like season 7 has already been this huge crescendo of that. And so adding this conversation is just one more extra cherry on top. So yes. DWD, let's break that down. Diva with Depression Experience.
Yes.
And I absolutely love that because I did get to listen to a few. And just kind of get myself in a mindset of understanding and grabbing and concepting all the things that you were doing. Right. But I'm curious, how do you define tarnish?
You know, it's funny because like you guys, the first time when I was looking at your list, I was like, tarnish, you think of silverware, like silverware that maybe is passed down, that you have to it's tarnished and you got to brush it. When you start to use it, get the little cream out. And then you think about somebody's reputation being tarnished. And then the next day I said, but if it relates to me, then it could be tarnish your childhood or, tarnish a woman that's abused can be tarnished. And, you tarnish your childhood, you tarnish your adult life, more taking away. And so that's what I did. I went and I wrote it down, and it was damage, harm, to damage or harm something valuable. And that's my life. My life is valuable. And there are several people throughout my life that damaged me and harmed me. And so when I wrote that down this morning, I was like, whew, and it ties together, why I started my platform, what I talk about. And, it was eye-opening, but it was just perfect, for this conversation. So, yeah.
I love that. And I love that definition because I do feel like from that descriptive word, we are also thinking about the resilience part of it already. And I think that's so much a part of Black and brown women, minority period DNA. When we're able to do that kind of code switch, if you will, we read something that's destructive and somehow we find ways to reiterate that in some sort of positive way that charges us forward. And so I just think that Tarnish is that for us. It's not a demeaning, it's a way of extracting and exploring and even overcoming areas and boundaries of our life. I would love to hear a little bit more of your backstory and kind of how you progressed this, especially the DWD podcast.
So I always say that I was been depressed all my life, probably from birth, and the diva with depression part started around 2013 or so, just in a woman's Facebook group, and I just happened to blurt out that I had depression, because I had a breakdown at work in 2006. So I had been hospitalized by that time about twice, gone through electric shock therapy twice. So I just, it was a conversation going on and I shared it and my inbox was flooded, and I'm like, what is going on? What did I say? I thought I offended people and they were, typing it. And it was, well, how do you know if you have depression? How do you know if you have this? What should I look for? Can you help me find a doctor and things like that? And I was shocked that so many people didn't know their symptoms because I knew, but it was only because I had struggled with it for so long. And so one of my friends is a blogger. And so she says, Didi, you need to start a blog. And I'm like, so I said, okay, I write. So I did that. And then I left Charlotte. I'm originally from New York, moved to Charlotte. Then I left Charlotte and went to New Jersey. And when I got to Jersey, I could not find a Black psychologist or a Black psychiatrist. And I got so angry. And then the doctors that I did find were of a different culture than me, and they were very racist. So that's when I decided that I was going to start writing about that. And I did. And by this time, both of my children were teenagers and they were struggling with their mental health too. And so I wanted to write about that. I had to get their permission. And so my oldest daughter is like, Ma, you're blowing up, So this story is funny. I am a tomboy from birth, 2 brothers, only girl. But when people see us, they say, here comes the divas. And so I said, oh, that's my name, Divas with Depression. And they're like, don't put us in this. So Diva with Depression stuck. And that's really how it started. I was frustrated with not being able to find culturally competent psychological care. And it just grew from there. I took a public speaking course, and they pushed me to start public speaking. And it just went from there. And the podcast started because my big brother was like, sis, you gotta go, you're taking this further, like it's a movement. And I'm like, but I don't want to move, so, but I've been through the trauma, I've been through the sexual abuse. I have PTSD, ADHD, you name it. I'm still struggling and I struggle every single day. And that was another thing that stood out from other advocates. I'm telling you what I'm doing every day. I wake up in hell every single day. And so when I started the podcast, it was like, well, hey guys, I'm recording from my bed today because I couldn't get out the bed. Hey guys, I didn't take a shower today, but it's okay. And it just went from there. And that's the basis of my whole platform is like, you're going to get the real thing. I'm not lying, I'm not using big words. I'm going to tell you guys that the medicine sucks. The medicine will make your teeth fall out, all of those things that they want to use big words and dance around it. I'm not going to do that. So that's it.
Wow. Just a level of transparency. Thank you so much for sharing for sharing these details, because I feel like this is so needed, especially in
It
these
is.
spaces when we talk about the high performance and the downfall from the not getting the 110% marker, or the badge that we so the star that we so desperately wanted in our careers and our personal
Right.
lives, and we go down this downward spiral sometimes of depression, of dark
Right.
spaces. And I just love that you give it light, you give it what it is, you literally call it out. I love that you are so down to earth, and that is
Thank
so
you.
needed in these spaces, because
Thank
a lot
you.
of times it goes over people's heads.
It
I'm
really
definitely
does.
guilty of that. So I love the fact that you are very layman and very very straightforward in that approach. In those moments when you're not able to get out of your bed, in those moments where you didn't take that shower, I love the fact that you continually tell people that it's okay. It's not the fact that you did the thing, but it's okay, even if and when or not that you do. I think that's so transformative for so many people out there who feel like they have to do a certain thing. They have to, check the box. They have to go down the list. They have to read the book. They have to wear the shirt, like whatever. I'm glad that
Especially
you,
us. Especially
yeah.
us.
Mhm.
Because we have to, I did a couple of episodes about death to the superwoman, because we think that we're supposed to do everything. And that's part of the reason why I was breaking down at my desk and carried out, because I'm an investment analyst. I'm the mother of two. I am the wife. I am the PTA mom. I'm the Girl Scout leader. You name it. And I'm doing it. And all those years of doing that and saying, oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. Let me just take my pill. I'll be fine. We don't have to do that. We don't have to do that. It doesn't matter. You can rest. You can be imperfect. It's okay. Because after I had my breakdowns, and while taking medication and while being in some wild spaces, I still had my babies. My babies still loved me. Even more, I always tell people the blessing is that even though I had the breakdown, I was able to be home with my kids after that. And I hear you guys talking about your babies, so you know how important that is. So that was a blessing that came out of my downfall. And so, we don't have to do it. We don't have to do it all. No. And we're killing ourselves thinking that we have to. Yeah.
That echoes what me and Danielle, what did we talk about? It was last year, I think. We were talking about the same thing. When I found out I was pregnant with twins, I'm like, I'm just not doing it anymore. Like, I'm not going to do it. And Didi, I really, really love that you brought up healthcare disparities. So I'm a registered nurse. I've worked in labor and delivery. Like, clearly I'm a mom. So I've had kids, had children recently. And I love the fact that you brought up, like, one of the things that, like, I work from home now. I still work with pregnant patients, but one of the things I truly miss about labor and delivery is when a Black patient would come in and they would see me, and then automatically, like, they would just be more comfortable. Like, it almost made me cry every time. Like, and I'd go home and I'd think about it. I'd be like, wow, like, that makes me tear up even thinking about it now. Like, I made that person's experience so much better just because we were right here. And I talked to them like, like I'd known them. I'd be like, hey, I'm Cicely, but here's what's going on. You tell me if you're afraid. You tell me if you have questions. There's no stupid question. Like, I want to make sure you understand, like, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just here to guide you through this process and, make your delivery and keep you and your baby as safe as possible. But the fact that, like, if you can't find someone that looks like you, who can relate to your experience, that also can cause delays in your care, problems with your medication, problems with your adherence to medication. If I have someone I'm talking to who doesn't understand that, like, I have a superwoman complex embedded in me through generational trauma, then how can you really help me? How can you get to the root of my problem? So, kind of circling, to current issues about diversity, equity, and inclusion, this is what we mean by that. You need people who are competent and who understand different people from different walks of life. One size does not fit all in mental health care, in, maternal health care, and any sort of health care. So I love that you brought brought that up. I love the fact that you had, women reaching out to you, and I'm sure a lot of them were Black women. Like, how did you know you were depressed? A lot of times our symptoms show up very different than other people's symptoms. It can be anger. It can be frustration. It can be, just the things that you don't normally attribute to depression. Like, it doesn't always mean you can't get out of bed. Sometimes you get out of bed, but you're so pissed off at everybody and everything. And people just think you have a chip on your shoulder or something's wrong with you. It's like, no, I'm effing depressed. Like, my life is in shambles and I don't know how to express it and I don't have an outlet. Like, that can be depression as well. So I really love that you brought that to light. And like I said, for the Black women who get it, they get it. But Black women who are still running around undiagnosed or who are going through the motions and just not knowing why they feel this way, I'm hoping that they will hear this and understand that, like, hey, I'm not crazy. I'm not just angry for no reason. And if you are might angry, be depressed. Right. And we can be angry, right? Like, as women in general, we have crazy biological things happening all the time. Then you add PTSD, you add trauma, you add stress, you add generational things, you add all those things on top of it. It's enough to make anyone go crazy. So I don't use crazy as like, a derogatory term. I just use it as, we all are going crazy in some way or another. So thank you so much for bringing that up.
Oh, thank you. It's so funny you said that. My daughter is actually in nursing school. And she was here talking to me yesterday about, she's been in OBGYN field since 5-6 years ago. And she would say that when she's sitting there, when she was at the office and people would walk in and they would see her and it would be like, and it's still to this day, and she was trying to decide, well, do I want to do this or want to do that? Because people don't understand how much it means. My last therapist before I moved here was Latina, and she was the best therapist that I had. And I've had some good therapists, but it was because we could talk about being poor. I could tell her that, not having food to eat was part of the reason why I am the way I am. She knew what I meant about my mom issues and, different things like that. It's different. And she knew not to question certain things. She knew that, in Black families, Uncle Charles is number one, ain't Uncle Charles. And number two, Uncle Charles could be the one that bothers you, and mom and dad won't believe you because Uncle Charles ain't like that. Or they're going to ignore it because it's Uncle Charles and tell you to be quiet because it's Uncle Charles. You know what I'm saying? And that's what we need. It may sound simple, the way I just said it, but we need that. I just posted today, actually for Black History Month, that less than 5% of the psychologists in the United States are Black. Less than 5%.
That's tragic. And very much what you said, it's the nuances, the cultural nuances that you cannot teach. Like, as a person who's not Asian, I may never be able to understand this like sort of hierarchy in Asian culture. As a person who's, not Native American, I may never be able to understand these traditions. I can be aware of them, which is a start. But being from that culture, being raised in that culture around those people, that's the only way you really truly understand the nuances, or understanding what girl versus girl means. Things like that. So again, the nuances. Child, right? Exactly. So the nuances, and that's the really important thing that, even when you learn a different language, I've learned that through being bilingual. I know that there are still nuances in how you say things, or, there are other languages where you can like make animal noises at people that sound disrespectful maybe in English, but those are just regular noises that you would make, like, hey, come here, sort of things in that language. So you learn those nuances, and that's how you get to know and treat people better.
Right. Exactly.
I love this.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And I didn't say this before, but also what triggered me to start this was one of my favorite authors wrote a book. And I was excited that she wrote a book about it was supposed to be about mental illness. But she's rich. well-to-do. And so she wrote this book. And by the time I finished the book, I was so angry because, it was like, oh, just go out and buy some Manolos and everything will be okay. Just go go to Starbucks if you need a break, if your anxiety is acting up. And I'm like, you are doing such a disservice to Black women right now. I was going to write to her, but I didn't, I was like, let me stop. But that's how the books are written, and we can't do that. We cannot do that. We can't pretend that nothing happened. I have my podcast is, I think, 2.5 years old, and I have never talked specifically about my parental issues. And part of it is because I'm scared, and part of it is because I'm ashamed, and part of it is because I am so, I can't find the word for it, so I'll just use this. I'm so screwed up by what they did to me. I don't want to hurt their feelings. Well, not my father because he passed away, but my mother's still alive. I don't want to hurt their feelings. Like everything that they did to me up until now, and I don't want to hurt their feelings. But that's a disservice to, I'll use you guys as an excuse. You might have had the same issues as I had with my parents, and I'm not sharing things that went on, but so you maybe went through it and we could share that together. I received an email from someone, and she sent me an email and she said, I listened to your podcast, and I've never heard a Black woman talk about parentification and parental abuse. She said, I would love to come on your show. She's a poet. And when we did a Zoom call, 15-minute Zoom call, but I read her story beforehand and I was in tears. But I was just blown away. And I loved her right away because she's telling that story, and she's saving somebody. Even if it's just one person, she's saving somebody because she's telling that story. And she's braver than I am because she's telling that story about her mother. I can't tell. I'm not there yet, but we have to stop pretending that there's not generations and generations of abuse stored up in our bodies, whether it was intentional or not. We have 400 years of PTSD. But it's true, like I have a whole page of helpline numbers here that I'm going to start posting because even though we said we're going to take a break, we can't, but I want to make sure people are, have the help that they can be able to get the help that they need. And so let's stop pretending that we're okay. We gotta stop. It's okay to say I'm fucked up, and I'll be like, okay, so am I. Let's talk about it. And that's
I love
it.
that. Yes.
Yeah.
That is the
Yeah.
beauty, I think, of this entire conversation, just meeting and being raw and honest, being transparent in that moment and understanding we're all over the place. We don't have it all
Yes.
figured out. But
Right.
we can navigate and help each other, right, in that process. I
Yeah.
love that. That's absolutely beautiful, Didi. I absolutely love this.
Thank you.
We have tons more questions for you.
Okay, go
Um,
ahead.
how did the stigma surrounding depression and mental health tarnish someone's personal or professional image? Like, how can the stigma tarnish someone's image or someone's personal, you know, persona of themselves? And I think I personally can speak to this because I feel like sometimes I tarnish myself in areas, if you will, when I talk about being strong and confident and walking into spaces confidently. I will put that hard hat on. I will go. I will mask up. I will put the lipstick and the gloss on. I will put the heels on. I will go. But at the same time, how can we do better? At kind of dismantling the stigma of depression when we talk about our personal image.
I before I had the official breakdown at work, I had been out before. My doctor had put me out twice before. And the last time she put me out, the manager found out. And he wasn't supposed to find out. It was supposed to be private. I don't know how he found out. And he was already harassing me. It was already part of the reason why, I was where I was. A very, okay, we won't say it. But he passed it along or whatever. But here I am. I'm an investment analyst. So that means that I'm not dumb, but he started to take projects away from me. And, oh, let's just give her something to add up. Excuse me? And so then it's like, oh, well, she's mentally ill, so she's stupid. Or she's mentally ill and she can't handle this. And so that's how they tarnish my image, oh, well, she can't handle it. It's too much for her. To the point that he was laughing with his colleagues when I came back from the second time off. And so I think that initially, if somebody meets you or if somebody finds out that you're living with a mental illness, it's like, and I'm going to be like you, Cicely, it's not, please forgive me if I didn't say that right. You're crazy. You're weak. You can't handle this. You can't do anything. And we give into that because we believe what everybody says. And then we just carry that tarnishment along. Like you said, you put on your heels and you put on, but why? It's okay if I see you in the morning and I'm your friend, and I say, Danielle, how are you doing? And you can say, I'm not there today, but I'm good for now. My sisters, every morning we text each other. They text me, I text them. We send a little GIF or a picture or something every morning. And it's, how are you doing? Or how are you really doing? And that's what they'll say to me, because they have to make sure that I'm not in a place, like, is she gonna, what place are you in? And so it's everywhere, that everybody is going to think that you're less than because you have a mental illness, and that's not true. And so we have to, again, show up as ourselves. Yes, I have a mental illness, but no, I'm not stupid. Yes, I have a mental illness, but I can put on my heels and walk with the rest of them. Yes, I have a mental illness, but I can still put on my Nikes and kick your ass. Like, this is how we tarnish ourselves up and shine again. And, I'm saying this, but I don't do it. But, it's hard to do it every day. And that's what we have to admit. It's hard to be, polished every day, but it's okay. Am I going to work? Am I showing up? Am I being a mom? Am I being a wife? Is everybody fed? Is everybody washed? Everybody clothed? I don't care if the house is falling down, washed, clothed, eating. Okay, we good. And accept that that's okay. If you pick up, that's one of my favorite sayings. If you picked up a sock today, I'm proud of you. Because I couldn't pick up a sock today because it was too heavy. And it's things like that can remove the tarnished image of someone that's living with a mental illness. It's not what you think it is, because I was suffering for probably 20 years before anybody knew what was going on. And that was only because, only because I was very sick by that point. Even the people that were living with me didn't know. So it's not what you think it is. You can't look at somebody and tell. So. You guys
Well, thank you for sure. Sorry, I had a baby raspberry in the background, so I was like, let me wait till they're done. I was afraid someone was gonna hear it, but I think that is a beautiful testament. And one of the things that I like try to live by, like mental illness or not, I feel like we're all just kind of one step away, anyways. Again, with all the outside pressures. Like I've seen people who had no history of mental illness, and then things will happen that trigger those things.
Oh, but I do agree though. We're like, I think we all get triggered by environment in different ways, and certain stimuli can poke and prod and progress that quite a bit. So I relate, Cicely, to that entirely.
And it could be something that you don't know. You know, that there's memories that are, you know, way down in your toenails. You know, sometimes that you have no idea. You forgot them, and then one day you're just sitting there, or you're watching something, or you hear something, and all of a sudden it just pops into the forefront. And now you're sitting there, and you're in tears, and this traumatic image is there, and it's, here we go. You know, if it was like a trauma, then here we go. You know, which is another case with me. I had something happen to me when I was younger, and I know that it happened, but I don't remember who, who part. And, you know, it's just a lot, you know, but it does happen. Things can happen. So the mind is a crazy place. You know, you just never know. So.
Absolutely. So thank you. That was the point that I was trying to make before my sound messed up. That it's definitely, it can be anytime, anywhere. You don't even have to have the history of mental illness. Like you just mentioned, there are things that have happened to us that we may not even remember, that we hear something one day, we see something one day, and then it just triggers this onslaught of things we never knew happened. And then there we go into a spiral. So I think giving ourselves more grace, giving other people more grace, obviously, you know, not making fun of people, not belittling people because they're having trouble. All those things I think would definitely help to kind of take away the stigma. Because I don't, like I said, I don't look at crazy as a bad word. I just, again, I think we're all crazy in some way or another. It's just some of us are better able to cope with that crazy, or better able to, you know, deal with the things that life throws at us on top of whatever else we have going on than others. But that doesn't make you a worse or a better person than anyone else just because you can deal with it better, or, you know, because you're superwomaning your way through it, you know, barely for 20 years plus. And then it hits you one day. It doesn't make you better or worse because that happens. But one of the things that I want to talk with you about as well is just kind of when you started your podcast, like what did you see kind of happening from there? Was it more therapeutic for yourself, or were you really trying to just kind of relate to someone, create a community for other people like you? So, you know, those of us out there who may be tarnished, who may need that extra bit of polish, was that kind of the thought process behind it, or did it just evolve to that at this point?
I think initially I wanted to, it was never about me. The whole platform was never about me. And that's not a good thing, actually, because that's my whole life, is never about me. And so initially it really was about finding people that were struggling and were ashamed and didn't, my tagline is, my voice is your voice. And so it was more about getting the information out there on a broader scale. I did the Facebook Lives during the pandemic, but it was just about getting the message out there to more people. And I had no idea what podcast meant, downloads, numbers, none, and I still don't pay attention to numbers and stuff like that unless somebody asks me. I swear to you. The tech part, my brother does that. So it was really about that. And then it became more, you know, when somebody asked me to be on their show, and I'm like, for what? You know? And then it became, okay, you know, this is good for me, because it gives me, even if it's just 30 minutes or an hour, it gives me an hour to get out of my own head. And so while I'm out of my own head, I can do something positive I can be useful, you know. And then that's when it started coming together. You know, well, I can share this experience. I'm not on video. I haven't gotten there yet. And so I can share this story and nobody can see me. And it's relatable to something else. And so now I started having guests last year. It was all solo up until last year. And that became fun. At first, I was terrified. And then that became fun. And it became, I don't know, I can't find the word for it, but it opened up to more people because now I'm bringing different people on that are suffering with different types of mental illness. And it's not just women. You know, I had a lot of men on last year. And so now we're giving Black men, permission to say that they live with a mental illness and they know that I'm safe, you know. So if they see me later, they can ask me for help. Or if they see, I had my brothers on last year. So if they see my brothers, they know that they can talk to them, you know. Or my friend that was on, he knows that if he needs, you know, a list of something, just shoot me a text or whatever. And so it really did pan out, you know, but it wasn't planned, but it just happened that way. And so for myself, it really is like this right now. It's me getting out of my head and talking to you guys. And after this, I'll probably put my PJs back on and, you know, and get back into my head. But yeah, that's how it became. It was totally by accident, but it's a good accident.
That is so beautiful. And girl, you cannot see me from the waist down. So I'm just like kind of I am telling people left and right. Like podcasting has been such a unique way, both for therapy, for, you know, education, but this
Yes.
sense of inspiration also for each other
Yes.
to hold each other up in a lot of areas and to again encourage us to do things that we didn't feel like we were bold enough to do before. So
Yes.
this conversation really like empowers me in a lot of ways, especially when we talk about this next topic about masking, because I do feel like there's so many of us women out there, women, period. I'm not even talking about
Yes.
women of color, even just women who
Yes.
mask. And I really just kind of want to get your thoughts on how we can get away from that. How can we, what are the dangers of masking and how can we fight that?
Well, the dangers are, and I hate to be this morbid, but it's true. You can lose your life if you continue to mask. And I was this close several times, but very, very close in 2018 after I lost my sister. And, you know, we just keep going and we keep saying we're okay. And we keep saying, you know, it'll be okay. And people will say, oh, pray it away or it'll get better instead of getting us help and instead of us asking for help. And so if you're not talking to a professional, if you're not going to a support group, or if you're not taking the proper medication, that means you're winging it. And a day might come where you get triggered by something and that can hurt you or hurt somebody else. And that's really the only way I can say it, ladies, is that it could take your life, you know, because it just takes a minute, you know. And so as far as taking off the mask, I don't think that we'll ever take it off fully. You know, we can take it off at times when we're with people that we're comfortable with. And that's how you begin. You know, your friends, your family, although family sometimes, but you know, people that you know you can be you with. Start with them and take it off and see how it goes. You know, because it's hard, but you don't know if they're wearing one either. So I know that with one of my sisters, I took my mask off and told her some things. And then she told me some things. And we're both like, holy shit, you know? And what? And this is after at least 10 years of friendship, you know? Being in each other's house, kids, everything, you know? And so she was struggling behind her mask. I was struggling behind my mask. And we didn't know that we were going through one subject, the same. And so if you have someone that's close to you, share one thing and start there. Or take your mask off at 7 p.m. and then put it back on at 8 p.m. You know, but we have to, because it's costing us our lives. It's costing your babies' lives. You know, both of my daughters, they're adults now, but both of them started struggling as teenagers. And I didn't talk to them much about what I was going through specifically. It was a general talk. Now, if I could do it over, I would have been specific, and I wouldn't have hid certain things, because maybe they would have handled it better down the line and wouldn't have went through some of the severe issues that they went through. Our babies are losing their lives, you know, because we're wearing a mask, they're wearing a mask. They don't know that they can talk to you, and you don't know that you could talk to them. And so at 7 years old, we're losing babies. 8 years old, we're losing babies, teenagers, because you're wearing your mask and your baby doesn't know that they can talk to you. So there's no winning in wearing a mask. There's none.
That is such a profound statement, that there's no winning in wearing a mask. Like, wow, that is so true and very transparent. And I definitely am speaking from a lot of personal experience. I had a son who was very, very, very a masking type of person, something we did not teach him, but he grew to come to this behavior. And he did not live past his 16th birthday. And
I'm
it
so
was
sorry.
very tragic. And a lot of it has to do with this level of masking, of putting things up, barriers between ourselves and others that doesn't necessarily reveal our true selves or our true intentions even. And so I really relate to that. And I'm really hoping that people are picking up what Didi is putting down, because there's a lot of true and raw information here that you can learn personally about maybe things that you are masking, and maybe finding the right person to start revealing more of yourself with.
And I work on a helpline. I forgot that. I work on a helpline all day, every day.
Oh, that's
in addition
great.
To
I love
and
that.
What don't you do?
The parents, it breaks my heart. I'm crying sometimes because it breaks my heart. Because they're calling and they're like, I don't know what to do. But you have to talk to them first, you know, like ask them what they want to do, or, you know, ask them what you can do. But it's heartbreaking, you know, it's just heartbreaking.
Really, really relate to that. And I'm hoping a lot of people are relating to it too on this episode specifically.
And I hope it kind of changes our ideas around hard conversations. Like, that's one of the things that's super important as parents. Like, you know, we're all three parents, all three moms. That's super important. Like, whether it hurts your feelings, whether it's uncomfortable, I think that's one of the things that I've kind of learned in parenting. Like, you just got to go for it. You just got to ask, whether you, even if you really don't want to know, sometimes you just got to ask. But just getting to that uncomfortable part. Because at the end of the day, if it's, am I going to be uncomfortable for 30 seconds, or is this going to save my child's life? Am I going to be uncomfortable and feel real awkward, or, you know, are they going to be like, oh my God, my mom asked me this, and, you know, have that embarrassing moment that you all can laugh about in a couple of years? Like, I'd rather it be, we all be embarrassed for a little bit and that we can get through to something, or I can find out information, than, again, to have any of the other alternatives.
Exactly.
To wait 10 years later to find out something, or to find out they've been struggling with something and I couldn't get to it because I was too embarrassed or too nervous, or didn't want to invade their space. I'm your mom. I'm always going to invade your space to a certain, extent.
My daughter's friends,
but you know, you have kids.
My daughter's friends used to be in my bed they would come over and they would lay in my bed and ask me questions and tell me stuff that they couldn't tell their parents.
Exactly.
They tell me before they told their parents.
Exactly.
And that's not okay. It's okay, but it's not okay. I'm glad that they came to me, but
like, right. I want my kid to be that comfortable, even if it's things that make me uncomfortable.
Right.
I want you to be that comfortable. Exactly.
Right.
So thank you, because that is a good point. Whether, as parents, we're going to have some moments where we want to like shrink into, like, what is it?
Right.
Homer Simpson shrinking into the bushes. We're going to have some moments like that as parents, and that's okay. If that's the worst thing that happens to me as a parent, I think I'll be fine.
Exactly. Exactly.
But thank you, because I love that you mentioned that. And then one thing I want to ask you as well is just kind of talking about stereotypes, misconceptions about depression, because we kind of touched on that a little bit, like the stigma that goes along. But do you think that there are any that really contribute to having what do you think contributes to having that tarnished image of depression? Like, how can we help with those misconceptions? How do you help with those misconceptions? But what are some of the things that you kind of see? We kind of touched on where I was like, people think you have a mental health issue, that you're nuts, you're crazy by default. But other than, kind of that line of thinking, what else do you see that kind of tarnishes people's perception of people with mental illnesses or depression?
Black folks, they won't let it go. They won't let it go. Because me, Granny and Grandpa and above said, oh, he's crazy. Put him in the basement. He ain't right. Just sit him in the corner. And then on down, take him to church and let the pastor pray over him. He'll be fine. What do you have to be depressed about? You got a roof over your head and food in the refrigerator. What you depressed about? Do you know that this was my father. You know that I used to walk 7 miles to school barefoot and blah, blah, blah. What does that have to do with the fact that I don't want to live anymore? Okay. What does that have to do with it? So it's us. It's us that is keeping the stigma going. And yes, we have come a long way, especially our generation. And I think it's more because of what we went through, and just we grew up faster than, I think that I'm older than you guys, but we grew up faster. We were really the adult children. And so we didn't want to do that to our kids. And so we made sure that we weren't our parents. And celebrities are now talking about it. And so that's a little bit better, but it's us carrying that from generation to generation. And it's the crazy, and it's the, the nuts, and the, let's not talk about it, and, pray it away and different things like that. And we have to stop doing it. We have to know that these are legitimate illnesses, just like you got sugar, you have schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is not just hearing voices. He's just not seeing things. It's a major illness that needs medication. You do not just put them in the basement, and we have to have that discussion. Bipolar disorder, that's not just mood swings. That's not just she's going out shopping. If the hypersexual behavior is a component of bipolar disorder. She's not fast. She's not a fast ass. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about it. And so it's us. We have to throw that language out, and we have to say it's okay. It's okay to talk about it. It's okay to get help. It's okay. You can let the pastor pray all day. That's okay. But when you leave church, take her to therapy. And, when I left, I just moved to Florida from Charlotte, and I started writing proposals to speak in church, which I'm very afraid of, because I said the F word like it's hello. And, but in, some of the churches in Charlotte did start putting things in place to start talking in church about mental illness. And I like that, because, we love our churches, and that's the cornerstone of our communities. And so pray away and going to do it no more. You know, we have to get in there and we have to start talking about, yes, God loves us. God wants us happy. God wants us healthy. God wants us to go to therapy, or God wants us to take the medication. And I say therapy and I say medication, but there's so much more. You know, there's group therapy, there's support groups, there's journaling, there's art therapy, there's music therapy, there's pet therapy, you know, so there's so many different things. And so we have to stop putting it off and using this bullshit language. You know, we're out there and we have people out there like you guys invited me on your show. And there's more, there's more of us out there talking about these taboo things, and we have to stop. We have to stop doing it to ourselves. We're killing ourselves.
Hashtag change the language. Okay, that's it. That's the line.
Ooh, I like that.
I love it too. I really love it. I think
I like that.
That's where I feel like in my mind, that's really where it's at. It's the things that we have carried generationally over the years that continue to sometimes continue to tarnish the way that we foresee our futures, foresee each other. And I feel like that's the baggage that we have to learn to unlearn, to leave at the door, right?
Yes.
Which generation is truly going to unpack like all the stuff? And I feel like over time we've made leaps and bounds. We've come ways.
Yes.
But specifically in this area of mental wellness, mental illness, anything along those lines, it's still very taboo, as you mentioned. And we have to do our part, right? The closer we can start having these real conversations, being really transparent about what it is, and really meeting people where they are in the spaces where they are doing them. So I love the fact that you mentioned church, because I do feel like that's becoming more and more of a less polarizing area to talk about mental illness and mental wellness overall. So I love that. That's very powerful.
Yes. A safe space.
Yes.
A safe space. Yes. So we'll get it together.
I had babies.
My youngest daughter is 25. My youngest daughter is 25. I'm sorry. And we were going through things a couple of weeks, last week or the week before. And she says, you know, I don't want to talk to anybody right now. You know, I need time to think. And I was like, how dare you? I'm your mother. You know, I would have never said that. And even though I was like, what does she mean? She don't want to talk to me. But I was so proud of her because she said that. She set a boundary and she said, I'll talk to you when I'm ready. And that was it. And I was like, okay, I love it. I love it. And that's what we need to do. We need to learn from them. So I think that going forward, they're going to be okay. Yeah, they're going to be better than us.
I agree. I love that you mentioned the boundaries, like with your daughter, because that, like, I feel like as a parent, sometimes that hurts our feelings, which is a little bit irrational, but I agree. Like, I know how you feel. My son has done that with me before, or like, I know I yelled at him about something and like, you know, I later apologized. I was like, I shouldn't have yelled at you. Like I was, you know, working from a place of anger, shouldn't have been. And he's like, well, you know, I don't feel like talking about it right now. And I'll talk to you when I'm ready. And I was like, oh. Like,
I know, right?
Apologizing. And he's like, well, it really hurt my feelings and I will talk to you about it later. And I was like, okay, like, I'm sorry.
Go get the wine glass.
And I was like, well, damn, let me just go get a shot then at this point. But like, I was very, like, he didn't say it in a disrespectful way. And I was just really proud of him for like letting me know that like, okay, I understand that you're sorry, but you know, whatever you did hurt my feelings and I'm not ready to talk about it. And we did talk about it eventually, but it was one of those things where I was like, damn. Like, oh, we've reached this point of parenting. And I think he was still 14 at the time that happened. And I was like,
yeah, that's awesome.
Man.
That's
He's
awesome.
like, well, you know, when you do this, it makes me feel like this, or I don't like it when, like, you know, if you yell at me about something, it doesn't make me like do it any better. It like stresses me out. And I was like, you're right. Cause that's what my dad yelling at me used to do to me. So I'm like, you know what? You're right. But if I had said that to my parents, I wouldn't be here with you having this
Exactly.
But I very much, like, I love that you mentioned that about your daughter. Like, sometimes it hurts us, or I think it's just uncomfortable because we were not raised like that. Like, we come most of the time, Black households, you come from a place where, like, you're not supposed to say how you feel, or like you're not allowed to feel like this because who are you? Because you don't pay bills and you don't do anything. Like, you just go to school and eat up all the food and, you know, use up all my utilities. Like, you don't have an opinion. So then when you hear like, oh yeah, I'm raising a person. This is a person with feelings. This is a person who needs to be respected. Just like I feel like I need to be respected. So I love that you brought that up. And like you said, the next generations, they're good. Like, I think they will be perfectly fine. Like Gen, what is it? Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and like the next ones after them.
Yeah. They're going to be okay.
Yeah. They're nothing we need to do for them in terms of that.
I think the thing I'm celebrating the most from like listening to both of you is like knowing that we have kids that are more aware of their autonomy of space. Right. And we didn't have that. Obviously, the further back we go, the less autonomy we have.
Yes.
And so I do feel like that is the coolest part of our culture is as things progress forward, they're being more and more aware of the autonomy that they hold and that that is a superpower and that can be used to protect, but also advocate at the same time. So yeah, I'm really like, I love that you both had that conversation because I'm like, ooh, all the feels like that. I see that in my kids. Like, yes, my oldest is now a young adult. He's 18, and my youngest is 4. So I'm seeing this level of autonomy. I have aunts and uncles that tell me, your child tells you no. Are you okay with that? I'm like, absolutely, I'm okay with that. He's absolutely allowed to voice his opinion. Doesn't mean he's actually gonna be no, but at least you told me and you can express it. Whereas, in earlier generations, our elders would be like, your child told you no, shut that down. Like, smack him across his head or smack your butt or And I'm like, no, we value voices here. So just kind of learning from that generation, but also seeing that reflected in the future actions of our next generation. It's beautiful to see.
Yes. Yes. We did that.
Yeah, right. I love that. We did that. Hashtag we did that. Okay, I'm for it. Okay, so for me, I'm all about creativity. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm a graphic designer, web designer. I'm in the creative field a lot. In the creative field where image is often important, how can someone with depression protect their shine from being tarnished by their condition?
That's a good one. I think everybody has a feature that they love the best. So, or an article of clothing that they love the best. Mm-hmm. So I told you I'm a tomboy, but t-shirts and sneakers are my thing, especially t-shirts. And so I make sure I have tons and tons of t-shirts. So and coffee. T-shirts and coffee are my thing. Mugs. Yeah. T-shirts, mugs, and coffee. So that's my thing. So if I'm going out of the house, I make sure that I have on a funny t-shirt, or a cool t-shirt, and my Nikes or whatever, my sneakers. And so at least that looks good. I know some people that their hair is the thing. So they could be falling apart, but they're going to make sure that their hair looks good. Or I have locks and decided to get locks because I don't like to comb my hair. And that was a big thing when I first started getting sick. I wasn't combing my hair. I would just put it up in a bun. And then when you opened it up, it was like, God only knows what was in there. Thank God my sister was a beautician. So I think that if you want to polish yourself up, just pick a feature that you like, an easy feature. That's key too, an easy feature, and make sure that that's okay. You don't have to have makeup if you don't want. Like, I don't wear makeup unless I'm going out, but I make sure that I have lip gloss on at least, or a bracelet or something like that. But make sure that you play up that part. So if you're going outside, that's what's going to shine to people. And that it'll make you feel good too, because somebody will say, "Oh, I love that T-shirt," or "I like what that T-shirt says," or "I like your shoes." I was in the hospital last week, and the nurse was like, "Oh my God, I love these sneakers. Where'd you get it from?" And I was like, "And I'm laying up in the bed, but she liked my sneakers." So, it's stuff like that. It doesn't have to be major. Don't make it hard. Please don't make it hard, because everything is hard for us. Like I said, some days picking up a sock is hard, but find a feature, find something that you like, and play that up, and it'll make you feel good when you're out.
I love that.
That's it.
That is beautiful advice, Didi. Thank you. I personally, I am that same as well. I'm a t-shirt and chuck girl. So give me the pencil skirt, the t-shirt, and the chucks, and that's like my shine.
Yes.
When I go out, people are always asking, "Where'd you get that shirt?" or "Your outfit's so cute," or that kind of feel. And I do feel like that is one small way that I feel I can feel confident, walking out and having that level of empathy, not only for myself, but receiving the empathy from others. I think it's such a little bit of a gateway, if you will, to kind of like leveling out and not feeling so anxious or tense walking into spaces that are unknown or unfamiliar to us. So feeling safe.
Yes.
Awesome.
Definitely.
Okay. Cicely, did you have any other questions you wanted to ask? I think we're going to move on to our flash guest questionnaire when you're ready. Oh,
yeah,
she's
I didn't. I was just making sure I was putting some notes. Yeah.
Okay, so we keep a working Google Doc. It's kind of as we talk about different conversations, words that spark us or muse us. You have a lot of words in here that has sparked some conversation from us. So that's really good. Usually we come back and use it later in like quotables, or maybe there's imagery that you shared that you specifically had talked about on the podcast, and we, pick that up and create for additional conversation with our following. And so, so we just kind of like to take those open notes, but it is one of those Kermit the Frog moments where one person's like very quickly taking the notes, and the other person's like recovering and talking kind of feel. But yes, totally. This is such an awe-inspiring and really transparent conversation. I'm really thankful for you, Didi.
Thank you. I thank you guys so much for having me on.
Thank you. It has been amazing. And I just love that we were able to talk on just a very realistic level. And one thing that you mentioned earlier that I forgot to even kind of bring back up is like the talking without the jargon. Like, you don't have to use big, huge medical words, even though that might be the name of this condition or the name of something. Talk to me like a person, right? Like, talk to me person to person. And again, that's the cultural thing. That's the nuance thing. Just talk to me on a level that that I can understand, and don't talk above me. Don't talk at me. Talk to me and talk with me. So I really love that as well.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That's the key.
I love it. Okay, this has been so special. We have, for people who want to find you, follow you, they want to know more about Diva with Depression. They want to know more about all the other spaces that you fill up. How can they find you?
My website is divawithdepression.com. I think I'm on everything. Instagram is where I'm at the most. TikTok, no, let me not even say TikTok, because I'm not on there much anymore. Instagram the most. I am on X for now, but I think I'm shutting down. I'm not on there much. And Threads. I'm on Threads more. Threads and Instagram the most. And my email address is diva with depression. Well, I can't type it out, right?
We can definitely put it in the show notes for sure.
Okay. But yeah, an email. But definitely LinkedIn, Instagram, and Threads are the main places where I'm at. But my website, divawithdepression.com, has all of my information on there also. And the podcast is Breaking the Mask of Depression, and it's on all the podcast directories.
I love this. I'm already following you on Instagram as we speak. Before we even finish this conversation, I wanted to make sure I was fully supporting all the things and amazing spaces that you take up.
So thank you so much.
For many of you out there who may or may not be experiencing depression, for many of you out there who are masking, for many of us women, Black and brown, who have not yet received a diagnosis or experimenting with the idea of going to therapy, we just continue to encourage you in your journey to be transparent, be safe, and share your space as much as you can so that you can be on a journey toward healing. Um, Dee, this has been amazing. I really am so thankful.
Oh, thank you.
And I think we're going to move on to our flash guest questionnaire.
All right. So, first one, tell us about a project that went hilariously wrong. What happened and what did you learn from it?
Just recently, I ran a program for Black people living with mental illness, a community session, and nobody showed up. So I learned that I did the right thing, but I did not take the community into my thoughts as far as letting others into the space.
That's tough, but I love that, and thank you for sharing, because that's hard. That's hard. Like, I know you poured your heart and soul into it, and then for no one to show up, that's heartbreaking. So I'm glad that you learned something from it, but I'm sorry that had to happen. So what's your secret source of inspiration when you're feeling creatively drained? Where do you go, and what do you do to recharge?
It's usually a cup of coffee. That's it.
That's not. I'd love to have that be my only fix for creativity. I need to go on a vacation, be there for 2 weeks. You're like, oh, just a cup of coffee. Cup of coffee. I have to say it in the New York accent. Cup of coffee.
I just moved to Florida, so I haven't been to the beach yet. But that was one of the beach is my zen. That's it. So it is.
Well, you got to get to the beach. How are you in Florida not been to the beach, ma'am?
Huh?
I said, how are you in Florida and you've not been to the beach yet, ma'am?
Well, it's only been a couple of weeks, so.
Oh, okay. So we're gonna forgive you this time. All right. If you were stranded on a desert island and could only bring 3 tools, digital or physical, what would they be and why?
I would bring my phone. I would bring my coffee maker, and I would bring my iPad so I can talk to my daughters.
All right. If you could travel back in time and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
It wasn't your fault. It wasn't your fault.
I think that's something that a lot of people need to hear. Whatever the situation, whatever the case may be, that's healing. So I love that you said that. That's great. And then what's the most unusual or unexpected place you love to create work? So think beyond a canvas or a screen.
Probably in the car. In the car. Yes. I've done a lot of stuff sitting in my truck when I had it. Yes. I write.
Sorry, there was a baby crying. I'm like, what is that? I didn't want to come off mental. I had that under control. But I think that's wonderful. So you write in the car, so you're okay with being the passenger, just writing out thoughts, writing out journaling.
Yes.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yes.
I'm going back on mute, Danielle, because the babies are babying.
Oh, you're fine. Bless their hearts. They just want mom. They get it. They need mom. This has absolutely been wonderful. Didi, is there anything or lasting thoughts that you would like to leave with our followers today?
I would like to tell them that it's okay to get help. And if they need help, please feel free to reach out to me. I don't judge. I just want to help. And it's okay.
Wonderful. What perfect way to end this episode. We thank everyone for listening to the More Than Graphics podcast. For exclusive emails and comprehensive episode details, visit us at mtgthepodcast.com. Don't forget to connect with us on Instagram, LinkedIn, or Facebook by following #MTGThePodcast. So until we meet again, we're reminding you that you are more than the work you produce. You are more than your name badge, and you are most definitely more than graphics. We'll catch you next time. This tribe with a vibe needs you. Share MTG on social media, on your lunch break with peers, or send an episode to your techie bestie. This podcast is produced by Octane Design Studios. Catch you next time.